take a close look at the pack of crab sticks in your fridge. Somewhere in tiny print, it almost certainly says, Imitation Crab. Not contains crab, not made from crab. Imitation. And that's not marketing caution. It's a legal requirement. In the US, a manufacturer must use exactly that word if the product contains practically no real crab. Now, the big question, how much crab is actually in there? For the vast majority of packs on a regular supermarket shelf, the answer is 0%. Not a trace, not a small fraction. 0. What you're eating in a California roll or a crab salad is fish, starch, egg white, and a bit of extract that makes the whole thing taste like a crab that was never there. Today we'll break down how an entire product category with the word crab in its name can contain no crab at all, and why that's not a scam but the result of one very lucky accidental discovery in Japan half a century ago. To understand crab sticks, you have to start not with crab, but with fish, and with a problem that existed long before refrigerators. Back in the 12th century, Japanese fishermen learned to grind fish fillet, rinse it with water, and shape the resulting paste into dense cakes that kept longer and had a pleasant springy texture. This paste later came to be called surimi, literally, ground meat. For hundreds of years, surimi remained a regional Japanese food, the base for kamaboko fish cakes. The problem was that the fresh paste couldn't be stored or shipped far. The protein quickly lost its springiness. The real breakthrough came in the 1960s, when Japanese researchers discovered that adding sugar and sorbitol before freezing protects fish protein from breaking down during freeze-thaw cycles. This discovery turned surimi from a local food into a raw material that could be frozen in blocks, loaded onto ships, and sent anywhere in the world. And within a few decades, this is exactly what would make it possible to export crab sticks to every country on Earth. Now, for the most unexpected part of this story. At the Japanese company Sugio, on the coast of Ishikawa Prefecture, researchers in the early 1970s weren't working on crab at all. Their task was to create artificial jellyfish from alginic acid, a jelly-like substance derived from seaweed, because natural jellyfish, a popular ingredient, was becoming increasingly scarce. In the course of their experiments, the researchers sliced a kamaboko fish cake into thin strips and noticed something. The texture matched the fibrous meat of a crab leg almost exactly. The project was instantly redirected. Between 1972 and 1974, Sugio released the world's first product made from dyed, sliced surimi, called Kanikama, literally, crab kamaboko. It was a flaked version, and just a year later, in 1975, another Japanese company, Osaki Suisan, patented the very stick-shaped form the whole world recognizes today. In other words, the product billions of people eat as crab sticks didn't appear because someone was trying to imitate crab. It appeared because a failed attempt to make artificial jellyfish accidentally produced the perfect texture for something else entirely. In 1977, the Japanese company Sugio partnered with the American company, the Barrelson Company of San Francisco, and crab sticks officially entered the U.S. market for the first time. The timing was fortunate. This was exactly when sushi rolls adapted to American taste were gaining popularity in California, and crab sticks, cheaper and more accessible than real crab, almost immediately became a standard ingredient of the California roll. By the 1980s, production had spread worldwide, and Alaska pollock became the base fish for surimi almost everywhere. It still accounts for most of global surimi production today. Cheap, white, and nearly flavorless on its own, pollock turned out to be the ideal base. It holds its shape well, dyes easily, and absorbs artificial crab flavoring almost completely. Let's look at the ingredient list on a typical pack. The base is surimi, a paste of ground, repeatedly rinsed pollock fillet, which makes up roughly a third to a half of the product by weight. To this they add water, starch, and egg white for firmness and springiness, sugar or syrup for taste and texture, vegetable oil, salt, and finally, a small amount of crab extract or synthetic flavoring, which is what gives it the recognizable crab taste. The pink or red tint on the surface of the stick is typically food coloring like paprika or carotene, not a trace of real shell. In the vast majority of packs on a supermarket shelf, real crab is completely absent from this list, 0%. There are separate premium lines where the manufacturer does add a small share of real crab meat, in some tested samples, around 6% by weight. But that's the exception, honestly disclosed on the label and priced noticeably higher, not the standard of mass production. And here's one of the most unexpected facts. Even with zero crab content, Crab sticks are legally required to carry a shellfish allergy warning. The reason is simple. The crab extract itself, added for flavor, is made from real crab, so trace crustacean proteins can remain in it. In other words, a product that contains virtually no crab can still trigger an allergic reaction as if you'd eaten the real thing. In the US, there's a general regulatory rule. If a product resembles another well-known food product on the outside but is nutritionally inferior to it, the manufacturer must clearly label it with the word imitation. Crab sticks fall squarely under this rule. In terms of protein, vitamins, and minerals, they're significantly inferior to real crab meat, so by law, they can't be sold simply as crab meat without a qualifier. That's why the packaging always carries one of these phrasings: imitation crab meat, crab-flavored seafood, or surimi seafood. The word crab on the label refers to flavor and shape, not to the ingredient. In the UK, regulators went even further and required manufacturers who used to sell the product simply as crab sticks to rename it seafood sticks. Precisely so, the name wouldn't directly reference crab where there is none. If you compare an identical portion of real crab meat and crab sticks, the picture is telling. Both products have roughly the same calorie count, but the source of those calories is radically different. In real crab, the lion's share of calories comes from protein, with almost no carbohydrates. In crab sticks, it's the opposite. Most of the calories come from carbohydrates, added via the starch and sugar in the surimi, while protein is noticeably lower. Sodium in the imitation version is also typically higher, a consequence of the surimi manufacturing process itself and the salt added for flavor. This doesn't make crab sticks a dangerous product. They're low-calorie, nearly fat-free, and remain a familiar, accessible ingredient in kitchens around the world. But from a nutritional standpoint, this is essentially a completely different product that simply shares a name and shape with its pricier original. There's a thoroughly practical reason the industry is so committed to this formula. Real crab meat is a seasonal, labor-intensive, expensive product. The crab has to be caught, picked apart by hand, and its price per kilogram is several times higher than crab sticks. Pollock, on the other hand, is caught on an industrial scale year-round, is cheap to process, and turns into a uniform mass that can be shaped into anything, from crab sticks to fish patties to even artificial shrimp. So the crab stick isn't an attempt to trick the buyer, it's a deliberate compromise, giving millions of people the taste and shape of an expensive seafood at the price of a much cheaper fish. The only question is whether buyers themselves realize this when they drop a pack into their cart. This story isn't about deception, it's about how one accidental texture, discovered during a failed attempt to make artificial jellyfish, turned into a global product that carries the name of an animal it doesn't actually contain. The law doesn't forbid this. It just requires the honest word imitation to be printed in small type at the bottom of the package. The rest is up to the buyer, whether or not they read the label. So next time you grab a crab stick for a roll or a salad, take a look at the fine print at the bottom of the pack. Now you know exactly what it means. If this story changed how you see that pack in your fridge, hit like. It's the best way to help the channel reach more people. And let me know in the comments, did you already suspect there was zero crab in there, or was that a surprise? I read every comment,